Chapter 2 Fieldcraft. What is Fieldcraft and how do we develop our skill set? Fieldcraft can be broken into specific sections: camouflage, stealth, and observation. The primary purpose of Fieldcraft is to develop personal skills and knowledge which relate directly to operating in a field environment. Clothing is a key element to being camouflaged while operating in the countryside environment. The development of clothing has changed in recent years. At one time, the only clothing available to the hunter would be the old-style DPM ex-military jackets and trousers. Thankfully, due to advances in technology, we now have an abundance to choose from that are specific to certain environments, suitable to where you are in the world. The advancements in technology have developed real tree clothing, which blends beautifully with all different landscapes. The older style ghillie suits, commonly used by military snipers, are great for breaking up your outline. The main aim is to create a disruptive pattern. Important factors to consider when selecting clothing will vary depending on the time of the year and the flora and fauna you are submerged in. A good tip would be to have a few different outfits to be able to select from depending on the time of year and situational environment you will be hunting in. The clothing should keep you warm and dry in the winter and equally be lightweight and breathable for the summer months. Personally, I'll use one camouflage pattern for the trousers and choose a different camouflage pattern for the jacket I wear. What you are ultimately setting out to achieve is to disrupt your outline and to look less human-like to the quarry's eyes. Remember, our quarry do not see in the way the human eye sees detail. Most animals see in black and white, or in a variation of that. In certain countries, it is a legal requirement to wear bright orange clothing to prevent accidental injuries occurring when hunters are hunting the same area of land. This has no detrimental effect on how the quarry sees the hunter. The whole aim is to change our perceived body shape and disguise the human outline. I would either recommend wearing some form of hat and gloves and a face covering like a face snud or face veil. The pale skin of human face or hands acts like a bright beacon to our quarry and will alert them to our presence from a mile away. Keep any bare skin covered. We have to remember our quarry has evolved to evade predators and their senses have developed to detect anything that looks unusual. Clothing should not be washed unless it's in a terrible state of uncleanliness. The microorganisms that make up washing powders that we commonly use to keep our everyday clothing clean will leave microparticles in your camouflage gear. In low light conditions or during nightfall, the particles will be illuminated and highly visible to our quarry. You may as well be wearing a high visibility jacket worn by construction workers on a building site. If you have a genuine need to wash your garments, wash them by hand. Do not use powders or detergents. A good method I've used in the past is to add some pine needles to the water container. This will leave a natural smell to the clothing once washed and dried. And wash your items only. Residue in a washing machine will cling to your clothes even if detergents are not used. Not all hunting scenarios will require camouflage clothing. In some situations, for example, you may be providing a pest control service in an industrial area. The intended quarry will be used to seeing the likes of workers frequenting all areas of the site. In fact, wearing camouflage clothing in these circumstances will have the opposite effect and highlight you as being unusually placed in that environment. You will be better off dressing as a worker and blending in to what is the normal occurrence for the intended quarry. The key message is to adapt to a selected area and choose what form of camouflage suits a particular situation. Camouflage is not only limited to the clothing we wear, you can achieve stealth by other means. The topography of the land can be used to our advantage. Selecting the right location or route to a target area can be a vital decision that can make a big difference to a successful outcome or not. Stealth. movement that is quiet and careful in order to not be seen or heard. The art of applying stealth to your skill set is one that you will adapt and develop over the course of your hunting adventures. The practice of not being seen or heard is a vital skill to learn. As air rifle hunters, we have to learn to close the range to a suitable distance to allow for an accurate, ethical, clean dispatch. Air rifles are limited to specific ranges depending on the power levels they are set to and the shooter's individual competency level. The majority of air rifle hunters in the United Kingdom will use sub 12 foot-pound rifles. This essentially means they are set at a defined legal power limit in accordance with government guidelines. Don't let this deter you from venturing into the airgun world. On the contrary, this should excite you. Personal skills. Air rifle shooting is the ultimate form of precision shooting, with so many factors working against us. Big bore rifles are more forgiving because of the power levels and the extended range at which they can achieve ethical dispatches. So what is against us to start with? Our old friend and foe, the weather, can be a major factor in how we have to apply fieldcraft to our approach to a shot. You are aware of an area of the farm that has a rabbit warrens and holds a good number of rabbits. It's a beautiful summer's morning and the sun is high in the sky. As you stand in the edge of the field, you notice there's a steady breeze from right to left. Scanning the field ahead, you can see a pair of rabbits just over 100 yards away. How is the wind behaving? After your first assessment of the wind, you realise the direction it is travelling in will blow your scent away and any noise you make to the left and away from the rabbit's cute sense of hearing. So what's the best approach to take to close the range? Your second assessment is complete. You decide to stay close to the edge line, keeping low as you move. Scan the land in front of you. Identify any dips or depressions in the land that you can use to hide your approach. Move slowly and surely, trying to avoid direct eye contact with the rabbits out in front of you. Stop every few yards and check if the rabbits have noticed anything. Are they calm and still feeding intently? You are content the rabbits haven't spotted your approach so far. Keep moving forward, gently placing your feet one after the other, taking small steps as you move forward gingerly. You should be scanning the ground in front of you, looking for small twigs that if stood upon will let out a loud crack and alert the rabbits of your presence. Remember to keep stopping to assess the situation. How is the sunlight? The sun is high in the sky. If you venture into the bright light cast from the edge line, the rabbits could see the movement of your shadow. Third assessment complete. You recognise the best approach is to keep in the shadow of the edge of the tree line. So far, so good. Your camouflage clothing is working well, helping you to blend in with the edge line. No bare skin is visible. You look like a shadowy figure mirrored by the edge to your left side. Have you closed the range? Your approach and assessment of all the factors that could complete the stalk have allowed you to close the range to 30 yards. Both rabbits are still feeding and not aware of your presence. During the stalk, the anticipation of reaching your quarry has made your adrenaline levels increase tenfold. Your heart feels like it's going to explode from your chest. Your final assessment should take place now. At this point, you want to give yourself the best possible chance of taking a rabbit home for the table. It is important to recognise your body's capabilities under your new level of heightened excitement. Do you take the shot standing? The best course of action right now would be to slowly sit or lay down. Position yourself so that you can take either a kneeling shot or a shot from a prone position. Once you have a comfortable position in place, allow yourself a few minutes for your body to recover from the exertion of the stalk. When you feel your heartbeat has calmed down, select the rabbit which gives you a clear shot of the head and follow the principles of marksmanship to dispatch the rabbit cleanly. Your reward is complete. You have a rabbit to take home for your hard work and attention to detail. The situation was read well, you are satisfied your observational awareness was executed perfectly. Stealth is something you develop, as stated previously, and trust me when I say, initially, there will be more failure than success. However, if you learn from your mistakes and strive to achieve the standard required, the rewards will be more than worth the trials and tribulations. During the course of this hunt scenario, I hope you recognise the key element to the success was observation. Understanding your quarry and surroundings and your own competence levels are fundamental to achieving your goals in the field. Observation. Observation requires observing and seeking knowledge, often through experiments. Watch for the shadows, listen for the sounds. In part 3 of this chapter, I would like to pass on the significance of how important observation can be for the hairgun hunter. The fundamental element that will significantly increase your bag size in the field is to observe and assess the areas in which you are allowed to hunt. This can be achieved by a variety of means and will be fraught with trial and error. Often, as an airgun hunter, I will spend countless hours sat waiting for my quarry to make an appearance. We've all been there. During these times, I'm constantly scanning the areas around me, looking for telltale signs of something coming within range. As time passes, your eyes wander, noticing slight changes to the surrounding woodlands or fields. The changes can seem small and insignificant at the time, but the next time you're there, it could be an important change that makes a big difference to how you plan your expedition out. A common occurrence could be you notice over the course of a few weeks a group of wood pigeons prefer the same strand of trees to take an afternoon rest in. While they digest the spoils of their crops, they are plundered from the farmers' fields the first thing in that morning. This snippet of information will allow you to exploit the pigeon's habits. Wild animals are creatures of habit, and what they did yesterday, they will do today. Observation is more than the bare act of observing. The changes you observe could be seasonal. In the instance of the wood pigeon, during the course of a year, you may notice in January they are visiting a particular hedgerow to harvest the last of the hawthorn berries that haven't been consumed by all the bird life. During the summer months, they may prefer to visit a water trough for a sip of cold water. A diary is a perfect accompaniment whilst out in the fields. It will allow you to make notes and record any small details you may notice. Then at a later date, you can compare statistics over the course of a few years and see if it's a common event at the same time each year. Little pieces of information, analysed correctly, will identify patterns for the quarry we pursue. Wild animals are creatures of habit, much like ourselves, and will favour certain situations and food sources at specific times of the year. A good practice to undertake would be to visit the land you hunt without your rifle. Walk the land and become familiar with all aspects of it. You will notice rabbit runs, see the pigeons in flight, and all you will need is your camouflage clothing and a good pair of binoculars. As you walk around, spot and stalk, take the time to read the movements of the different wildlife. Watch how their behaviour changes when a predator visits an area. Listen to the sounds and the different calls all the wild critters make. The majority of the time, sounds that are heard will alert you to something's presence before you had the chance to see it. Wood pigeons will use the same flight lines passed on through generations. They will follow landmarks like overhead power lines to aid navigation. If you set out some decoys within 50 yards of a flight line, your chances of decoying a few birds to ground will increase. Think of a field like a room. There will be 2 doors in which the pigeons will use to enter and 2 doors to exit the field. Time spent chatting to locals or the landowners is time well spent. Landowners in particular are on the land every day tending to livestock or inspecting their crops. Some of the most reliable information you can source will come from the landowners themselves. It's very common for them to give you a call to inform you the pigeons are on the peas and causing damage. Information like this can be the head start you need at times. Observing your quarry isn't only done on the land. True, you understand their movements better and where they like to frequent, but don't underestimate the power of technology. When I was a young man, I was limited to the information available to me. If I wanted to learn about my quarry, all I had were my own two eyes and the books that I could buy to read. Don't get me wrong, the best information is to be gleaned by visually seeing it for yourself and learning about what you have seen and interpret it in a way that you understand and learn from. However, in the modern age, we are all lucky to have the availability of the internet and social media sites such as YouTube. If you want to research any topic, it's a simple solution to Google a topic and glean the information from the article. Please ensure the information is factual and from a credible source. From a personal perspective, the way I learn is to submerge myself in a topic. To be quite honest, it will border on being obsessive. For me, that is the way I learn. Maybe you're different. I enjoy taking on board little snippets of information at a time. There is no wrong way or right way to learn. It's a matter of what suits the individual person best. Submerge yourself in the countryside, watch and learn, and you will undoubtedly increase your Fieldcraft skill set. I've spent many years, somewhere in the region of 30 plus years, being fascinated by the natural world and all the wild creatures that live on our planet. The United Kingdom is my home, so my personal studies have centred on my own country of origin. Knowledge is not power, it is there to be shared and studied by those that follow us. Hunting is conservation. I consider myself a conservationist. Some people will find that difficult to understand when I'm involved in the act of taking wild animals' lives. But I have a clear conscience and a greater understanding of the wildlife on my shores than most animal rights activists in the UK. Think of hunting as a paradox. We can agree to disagree with others. It is akin to standing in the rain but looking directly at the sun. The anti-shooting brigade have never been able to understand how you can love an animal but take its life. If the truth be told, hunters have the same conundrum. Why can I say that? Quite simply, because I have spent a big portion of my early teens and the majority of my adult life observing and listening to the wild animals in their natural surroundings. I have an affinity, love and respect for all wild animals, but will continue to hunt and control pest species to help maintain a natural balance between the predator and prey species. Enjoy the wild spaces and all they have to offer you. Keep those eyes and ears open and soak up all the information that's just waiting for you to learn. You'll make the wrong decisions from time to time, but don't let that stop you from trying again. Maybe you can tweak your approach a little to give you a better advantage next time. Maybe that squirrel you saw run along the bare branch in the hedgerow will take the same path in a few more days and present you an opportunity. There are a lot of variables when it comes to observing your surroundings and the wild animals we encounter. But if you can tell me a better way to spend your time, even when no shots are taken, I will call you out. We live and learn. No 2 days are the same, and the same can be said of our time out hunting.